high school, but
Dating?
nothing on a regular basis.
All right.
I was particularly infatuated with this one girl, but she was so popular that all the guys wanted to date her, and most of them had what I didn't have. They had money to spend and access to a car.
Mm.
I just figured I couldn't compete with that.
Mm.
It was also during this time there was another addition to the family, another girl who was named Patricia. So now there were 5 kids in the family. In my junior year in high school, I was offered a job as a bellhop at the Alonzo Ward Hotel, the best one in town. Alonzo, the man who owned the hotel, was a member of the local country club, and I had caddied for him on numerous occasions. Before my job interview, Dad took me to the clothing store where he was working and bought me new clothes, including coat and tie. He said it was very important to make a good first impression on a job interview, and personal appearance was a vital part of that. Mr. Ward hired me immediately, and my bellhop career began. I started on weekend night shifts. I was showed the ropes by one of the other bellhops, which included learning how to run the elevator and the switchboard, along with the normal routine duties required. One eventful night during a winter storm, a taxi pulled up to the entrance, and out stepped the cab driver and Esther Williams. Yes, I mean the movie star,
Mm.
Esther Williams.
Mm.
She was on a flight to Chicago, but due to the stormy weather, they had to put down in Aberdeen. I was delighted to show her to her room. What a gorgeous and gracious lady she was. I was flabbergasted. I had seen her in several of her movies. She was more beautiful in person than she was on the screen. After I got her settled in her room, she reminded me she had left a note with the desk clerk that she be awakened at 6 a.m. sharp so as not to miss her flight the next morning. She mentioned that she was a very heavy sleeper and asked that I make sure she was up on time. I promised her that I would. The next morning, while sitting at the switchboard making wake-up calls to those who had requested one, I called Esther Williams' room first. There was no answer, so I just kept calling and calling to no avail. I told the desk clerk, and he told me to go up to her room and knock on the door. I did so, but there was no response. So I kicked louder and louder until guests in other rooms started complaining. By then I was concerned that something must be wrong with her. I went back down to the desk, told the clerk I couldn't wake her up. He told me to go back up to her room with a pass key, open the door, and tell her loudly it was time to get up. I did so, but still no response. I was beginning to think she might be dead.
Mm.
So I turned on the light, and there she was, sound asleep, still breathing, and stark naked. I called out her name again loudly and retreated. Still no response from her. So I did the same thing again. I then noticed the earplugs. So I walked over to her, shook her, and made a hasty retreat. After I detected movement, I went back down to the desk clerk and told him she was up. I also told him she was naked when I awoke her. He just stared at me and said, "You lucky stuff." After several minutes had passed, she called down to have me come up to get her baggage. I did so, but all the time I couldn't look her in the face. I remember that. I remember that. When I got her down to the lobby, I took her bags out to her waiting taxi and retreated the bellhop's corner inside the desk. She came over to me, thanked me for making sure she was up, then gave me $5, a huge tip for a bellhop at that time, and apologized for embarrassing me.
Aw.
I just looked at her and I said, "It was my pleasure to do so." She laughed, rumpled my hair, and departed. I was somewhat of a celebrity after that incident, and when the other bellhops and other employees heard about it, they spread the word as well. A night to remember? You bet.